Dot, 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 dot. Good morning, everybody. This is Grant from State of the Spark with a show for you this morning that I think is going to touch home for some people and answer some questions because it's answering questions for me. Before we get into the lesson of what is the price of mission and who do you have to become, we're going to touch on that real quick. And I finally think I have a direction. Maybe not answers, but a direction as far as that's concerned. Before we got that, we have two small pieces of other news that I'm excited to share. Who's going to space and how is Banksy helping the National Health Service? And of course, before all of that, we have a lovely cup of gratitude with coffee spots. I'm sorry I didn't wipe my beautiful mug off first. For morning cup of gratitude, I want to hear what you're grateful for. Give me your gratitude this morning on a lovely Monday in the comments below. Let's talk about this. What I'm grateful for this morning is that my library keeps pumping out the hits. You know, I'm so glad that I've invested in a library. I'm so grateful that I've invested in a library because this morning and in this season, I've been scratching my head about a missed paradigm that I'm having for this next level, this next push into success that I'm hoping for. And I saw this title, which is always an exciting title, The Guide to Becoming Rich. That was one question I had. Fantastic book by Rich Dad. As well as Eighth Habit. I was reading these books and I was able to ask a question in my mind and in my heart and look over to my bookshelf and see a book and a spine and open it up and flip it open and recall all the lessons. And it just continue to drop nuggets. I have never regretted, unless I was moving, I've never regretted what I've invested in my library. So what I am grateful for this morning is having invested the best investment that has the most continuous returns in my life is my library. Here's to that. Tell me what your favorite book is in the comments, the thing that keeps dropping and depositing value to you. Let me hear about it. And let's talk about other news. And this small bit of other news. Yes, Banksy, not the Banksy that burned in a cryptocurrency NFT, but a Banksy painting dedicated to frontline workers in the pandemic. Let's do that. There we go. Has sold recently and gone on auction. It's on auction right now for £3 million. And it was originally titled Game Changer, a 1 meter or 3 foot by 3 foot painting that was hung in the Southampton General Hospital during the first wave of the pandemic, meant to encourage frontline workers. The painting features a young boy playing with a super nurse with a mask and a cape and a nurse cross on her chest. He's playing with that doll instead of his Batman or Spider-Man dolls. And that painting has now gone to auction for £3 million. Brittany jumps in and says, so grateful for Chris Ann Long. And I share this piece of gratitude. Chris Ann Long is phenomenal. Chris Ann Long, we are working together trying to figure out and mastermind a new audio-only app, Clubhouse. Working with her brings out the best in her. Yeah, so we've been on Clubhouse together and we've co-hosted a few things. And what Chris Ann has been able to do and cultivate there has been phenomenal. Brittany, awesome piece of gratitude this morning. I am also supremely grateful for Chris Ann Long. And another piece of news, Haley Arsenault has already been chosen as the 20-year-old cancer survivor to be the youngest American woman in space. Yes, this is the gal who was picked for the latest or the first all-civilian SpaceX flight later this year. Brittany says, book that is speaking to her right now is The Personal NBA by Josh Kaufman. I should actually check that one out. I was talking to Dr. Joe Childs about the future of education, and he and I were trying to brainstorm a little bit of what does an MBA mean today. Brittany, with her favorite book right now, speaking to her, this 29-year-old Haley Arsenault generally does not meet NASA's requirements to be able to go on a space flight. But because basically as a cancer survivor and the titanium rod and artificial joint on her body, she's kind of disqualified from standard NASA requirements. However, when billionaire Jared Isaacman announced late last year, early this year, that he purchased a flight from SpaceX to do two things. Number one, accomplish a lifelong dream. This is why he became a billionaire, to go to space. The second, to promote his business, which is a payment platform used on the internet. And the third is to promote St. Jude's, which he's been a avid supporter of his whole life. And Haley Arsenault was picked to go on this flight. She is a former patient of St. Jude's. She's also a down and out person who has not been able to even qualify for even the most basic level of space flight because of the things I mentioned before. But also, she also uses Isaacman's platform already as an entrepreneur. So it's a fantastic announcement that he has actually picked the youngest American at age 29, who also has a powerful story and go into space. Am I a little chap that it's not me? Oh, you betcha. But I am certain that in my lifetime, space flight will be affordable enough that Spark citizens are going to go up there for a little spark. We'll do, Brittany, we'll do one of our quarterly celebrations on a SpaceX flight together as a team. And then you can host Clubhouse, the first Clubhouse hosted from suborbital flight or orbital flight. We're totally going to do that. Here we go. So, do you want to fly to space? Yeah, me too. Do you want to become a millionaire or a billionaire who can afford things like that? Me too. So the question I've had for a long time is, who do you need to become? Let's cover that in today's lesson. Some of you might know or might not know that while Marissa and I prepared for the Dominican Republic in the first year of our marriage, we worked our butts off. We put so much money in the bank, it wasn't funny. We worked very hard. We didn't even play hard. We had very little time for players. So as our finances went up to move towards the island, our life here began to decline. But we didn't realize it. It was all work, no play. And I was at Starbucks at 4 a.m. And I don't mind that so much. But the requirement to hop out of bed as a newlywed at 4 in the morning, when we were up the night before, just having fun as a new couple. I heard a quote recently by Brian Tracy. Brittany says, yeah, I'm in. Let's go to the freaking moon. Why not? Yeah, man. So Brian Tracy has a quote. He says, your first $1 million is not about the money, but who you have to become to earn it the right way and sustainably. Now, I heard this quote recently, and it's really convicted me for a lot of reasons. The main reason it's convicted me is, yes, as I have said, I am a very well-read person. I've read a ton of material. I've studied a lot. I've built several businesses, and Brittany and Adam's business has blown right by our main business. Meanwhile, I still have other big dreams that I feel like have not moved as far as I want them to move. Some of them are money goals, of course, but others are impact goals that I have not moved forward successfully. And I recognize and realize there are limitations. Are there practical limitations? Maybe. But I'm convinced above all else, they're paradigmatic limitations. You know, I came across, this is a rarer book of Rich Dad, Poor Dad of Robert Kiyosaki. Yes, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this is a lesser known book. I have nearly every single purple and black, you know his design, right? You've seen his design. I have nearly every purple and black book that Robert Kiyosaki has ever written. And this one I opened up, and it spoke to me about this concept of what Brian Tracy says: to earn your first $1 million is not about the money, but who you have to become. That is the challenge I want to step up to. Who do I have to become? I'm sold that it's not about the money. In fact, Brittany knows this about me. Marissa knows this about me. It's not about money enough for me. I should make it more about money, because it really isn't. It's about the impact I want to make. And I just recognize that money is part of that. So in recognizing that, I want to know who I have to become to successfully delegate my business, to travel while nurturing tight relationships with my people. You see, when Marissa and I moved to the Dominican Republic, there was an inverse opposite reaction in other parts of our lives. We say things came up, and I had a really difficult time in the Dominican Republic, even though we were given the dream we had fought so hard for. That was because I was not ready to handle, in Newton's third law, the inverse opposite reaction in my own life: the lack of fellowship, the lack of relationship. I wasn't ready for these things. Yes, I could speak Spanish, but I wasn't making friends nearly quick enough. The lack of security. I didn't know where our income was coming next year. The lack of future vision. I didn't know what I would look like when I was 80 and 90 years old because I had no idea on how I would build wealth now. All we had done is save a lot of money and get to the Dominican Republic, but nearly every other metric in my life had tanked. So in reading this Robert Kiyosaki book, I came across a section. And if you're familiar with the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki grew up with a poor dad, the father who was actually the director of education for the entire state of Hawaii. But he often says that this was his poor dad because his dad died poor. Whereas the inverse opposite of this, he had a highly wealthy best friend and a highly wealthy best friend's father who was also not educated past grade school education, but was supremely wealthy. Someone comments here, money is the value of energy you invest in bringing your ideas to reality. Who's commenting? Awesome bomb. Sorry, I don't see your name because it's not coming through on Facebook. You're probably posting somewhere else. But this is true. Money is the value. Oh, this is probably Dr. Childs. Money is the value of the energy you invest in bringing your ideas to reality. And I even have it written here, Dr. Childs, to call you out or shout at you, actually, or give you credit for a statement that he made in another group we are a part of. Someone said, what does it take to launch my business? And Dr. Childs says it takes twice what you think it will. And though that is very true from a practical financial standpoint, it is also true from what Robert Kiyosaki said, or his rich dad said in Guide to Becoming Rich. You see, the two boys, Robert Kiyosaki and his best friend Mike, were in the car together riding to see Rich Dad view another investment. And they were asking him, what does it take? And they said the same thing Joe Childs says right here. It costs twice as much as you think. And they said, why? And he said, Newton's third law. And what he meant by Newton's third law is not only must you pay the price for the thing you want, you must also pay the price for to be good enough to manage the other things that will go down in the inverse opposite. He gave the example from real estate and said, if you want to invest in an asset, you also have to be ready to manage what's going on with the liability. And if you cannot manage what's going on with the liability part of the equation, you're not ready for the level up. He mentioned this in several other areas of life, but this began to speak to me that many of us are actually ready to pay the price for our millions, for our fitness. We're ready to go to the gym. We know what to do to go to the gym, but why does it always fail? Because we have not paid the double price, the price of managing what else goes down in our life. Maybe it's time with our family, time with our kids, time away from our job. We haven't prepared for that. And this is what I realized happened to me and Marissa. I was ready to pay the price to be in the Dominican Republic, but I was not ready to pay the double price, the price of the things in my life that would diminish. So when Brian Tracy asked the question, your first $1 million is not about the money, but who you have to become to earn it the right way and sustainably. I've always wondered, Brian Tracy, please just tell me who I have to become to manage that sort of thing. I'd look at Mr. Six-pack abs and I say, who do I have to become? I have done all the workouts, but something eventually always falls apart. And me and my good friend Derek Smith were also asking this question. And so the answer has come to me in the form of synthesizing a little bit of this. And actually, let me give you this quick line here. Rich Dad says, people who seek security over freedom pay more in taxes. And Mike says, do I have to choose between security or freedom? In other words, does that mean I can have one, but not the other? If I want to have abs, am I just going to lose family and relationships and business? If I want to go to space, does that mean I have to be like Elon Musk and be married 4 times and hardly ever see my kids? If I want $1 million in the bank, does that mean people have to not respect me or have to lie, cheat, and steal to get there? Of course not. Brittany says this. She says, less sleep, less TV shows, saying no more often than you like, and having to show up sweaty. Boom. Whatever it takes. Who do I have to become? Rich Dad goes on to say, you can have both. You don't have to have one or the other. You can have both security and freedom, talking about financial wealth. One of the kids said, you mean I can have both security and freedom? He said, sure, but you have to be willing to pay the price for both. I have been willing to pay the price for both security and freedom. To Joe Child's point, for those who want to launch a business, there are two prices to pay. One is probably the hustle and grind. The other might be as the other things in your life go down and the relationships that you still want to maintain that could pull you down. You probably need to juggle them. You could say the double price is learning more financial literacy. So I am set out to explore right now, what's the double price of my goals? And that probably takes a little bit of soul searching and awareness, because you could look and survey a lot of different things. So what I want to offer to you this morning is a series of questions that I have actually been writing down to start to evaluate the double price, the price it takes to get the dreams I want, and also to mitigate and manage the other things in my life that must go down. And to Brittany's point right here, it touches on some of these. And I just want to preface this a little bit. If your mission is going up, if you want to execute more mission-driven organization or a missionary or impact, as it was for Marissa and I, you got to start asking, how are you going to pay the price of ensuring that your sense of security was going to also go down? Are you emotionally ready to handle not having retirement possibly, or to handle how to actually make it so that you have a retirement? When in the Dominican Republic, I had not become the person I needed to manage that. That caused me a great deal of insecurity. If your business is going up as it is right now for Marissa and I, how are we going to pay the price to become who we need to become to also manage the less time we have to travel and play and have leisure time? We still need leisure time, but are we becoming the type of people who communicate often enough that as the business goes up, we mitigate the other things in our life that might also be going down? So the core question, taking Newton's third law and applying it to the price of mission, applying what Brian Tracy called out, is simply this. The core question, and all the other questions that I'm having stem off of this. The core question is this: what is the double price you need to pay? The external price is the superficial price we all know. Hustle, grind, working hard, planning, goal setting, all that sort of stuff. But the internal price of managing the other things, the other needs, the other desires you have as they seem like they're getting further away. They're not actually, but as they seem like it. So the core question is, what is the double price I need to pay for my dreams? The second question I have is this, and I think it's the immediate next question. What conversations do I need to have with my spouse or partner to prepare what will go down? What conversations do I need to have? Too many. Non-decision is a decision. In fact, Rich Dad even said to Robert Kiyosaki and his son Mike, and it was this: no decision is a decision. If you don't decide to pay the price, you're still going to pay the price, because as your business goes up and this starts to weigh you down, if you don't pay the second price of managing what's going down, of being a good manager of those things that are declining, it will also pull the whole thing down, because a rising tide lifts all ships. A sinking tide does the same. So what conversations do you need to overtly be tackling these items? Remember the opportunity cost. Joe jumps in here. Dr. Childs, fantastic material. Remember the opportunity costs as well, the cost of giving up the next most valuable benefit of the hour you spend on your business. And one step further, awareness of opportunity cost is one thing. Managing it on a stable decline. Picture the SpaceX Starship having a soft landing versus a hard landing. A hard landing will absolutely derail your business, but a soft landing will actually allow that thing to come down. So you have an opportunity cost. It's not just being aware of it visually, it's managing the emotions, the conversations, and any hard resource loss you have as that other thing goes down. The second question, or the third question is, we said what conversations. The third question is, who do you need to start spending time with? Who is the very next awareness moment? Because chances are, as your business goes up, as your fitness goes up, maybe a who is a coach. As your business goes up, maybe it's new employees or new partners. As your money goes up, maybe it's your accountant. Who do you need to spend more time with? Who encourages you and lifts you up? And inversely, who do you need to spend less time with? Who doubts you? who doubts the ideas you have, who only provides problems and pokes holes in things, but does not sweep in to say, hey, as a team, though, let's build this thing back up? Whose paradigm only accounts for one side of the equation and not both? Whose paradigm says you don't need to worry about what's going down? Who ignores Newton's law of motion or law of momentum as it pertains to your business? Who is only aware of surviving and not thriving? Who do you need to spend more time with? And who do you need to spend less time with? What changes do you need to make to your inputs? Brittany called it out right here. You need to change your inputs. Less sleep, less TV shows, saying no more often than you like, and having to show up sweaty sometimes. More curated teachings and audio. Less televised carbohydrates. I'm not a believer in zero leisure. Me and Marissa had a fantastic leisure day yesterday. But I believe that should be the Sabbath, and the rest of the week, you should go consciously and conscientiously gangbusters for your goal. How should you change the way you're communicating with people? People that are managing what goes up and managing what's going down have a communication plan for both. They have a vision plan for both. How do you need to change the way you communicate to people? Do you need to be communicating more specifically? Do you just need to be communicating less? More often than not, to manage what's going up, you need to communicate less about what's going up. And to manage what's going down, you need to communicate more about what's going down to conserve as much as possible with what is going down in your life. If your business is going up and your time with your kids is going down, you need to be communicating more with your kids when you have that time. You need to be communicating more with your spouse and partner about what is going down and spending time with your kids that way. That's what I mean, that you probably need to be communicating more. Should you change the way you dress? As things go up, you need to change the way you dress for that, right? And as things go down, the way you dress for going up probably also sets a tone for what is going down. And of course, to Brittany's point, what should you begin to say no to? Don't just in generalize saying no more often than you like. Define what you should be saying no to. Brittany jumps in with a powerhouse. Our leisure day yesterday included 2 walks, but it didn't mean no exercise in derailing our daily goals. Absolutely. Get outside, walk. Me and Marissa sat in the sun and got outdoors, of course, but it doesn't mean no exercise. It just means modifying what you need to do. So what should you begin to say no to? What should you begin to say yes to and get specific? Don't just generalize. Platitudes and principles are enough to shift a desire, to shift a paradigm. But what absolutely must come next are actuals. What are the actual things you will say no to? There's a to-do list and write a to-don't-do list. Have both. All this to say, let me just review some of these questions. What's the double price you need to pay? What conversations do you need to have with your spouse or partner about what will also be going down as you increase in the other area of your life? Who do you need to start spending time with? What changes do you need to make in your inputs? How should you change the way you communicate to people? How should you change the way you dress? And what should you begin to say no to? And all this begins to answer the question that I had for Brian Tracy, and that's this. Who do I need to become? And the answer from Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad is this. You need to become a person who is consciously managing what is going up, but also not neglecting to manage what is going down. The person you need to become is a person that can manage both, that can acknowledge both. Not just go all in, I'm going all in, and ignoring the rest of the world. That makes for flash in the pan success. But if we're going to make permanent success, we've got to become the type of people that change into someone who can manage both. Listen, I'm about to go have a walk with an awesome friend, so I'm going to sign off. If you guys need any support or help, please visit us at the Facebook Goals and Gratitude group right there. Join us, ask your questions there. But remember the mission today and this week. Igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a phenomenal week, everybody.